Hi there, and welcome to the Good Enough Battle Companies podcast. My name's Chris Piercy. I run goodenoughscenery.com. So I guess it's a company, but it's just me. And I make wargaming scenery. But my very favorite game to play is Middle Earth strategy battle game, Battle Companies. So much so that I've decided to make a podcast about it. But I'm not doing it on my own. I'm doing it with the help of my friend Stephen from When I Can Hobby. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, Stephen, and what you love about hobbying.
Well, like Chris, I play Battle Companies with yourself. Been doing it for the last 6 months or so, and very keen to get into this podcast and learn a bit more with it. But also, I am a wargaming enthusiast. I do everything from 40k, Infinity, Blood Bowl, all sorts. And I also have my own TikTok page, When I Can Hobby, where I just have a bit of fun on there. So if you want to have a bit of a laugh about the hobby, come follow me.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a nice combination of the very very stupid meme type stuff, but also some and a lot of that is genuinely hilarious. But you do the lives on there, and you've got created a whole community of different people.
This is it. Yes, I have created by pure accident the Hobby Club, where we go live Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and we've now started a Friday night one where we go live 8 to 10 o'clock and at teas and crumpet time, which is British time, on TikTok. So yeah, if you're interested to join us for a bit of a laugh and a giggle, that's what I do by accident, but it's good fun.
Well, I think it's fantastic to get all these people together, but that's people might be tuning into this going, well, what on earth is Middle Earth strategy battle game Battle Companies? From this point forward, I'm just going to be calling it Battle Companies because that's far too many words. But battle. So if you don't know what it is a very small version of Middle Earth strategy battle game. So it's a small skirmish squad-based game. So often when you're playing something like 40k or whether you're playing MESBG, or you're playing like a standard Warhammer, you're looking at 500 point games, you're looking at 1,000 point games, or 2,500 point games. Your battle company would be roughly 100 points to start with, but it's got an RPG element, so it grows, and that's kind of it's one of the things that I love about it is the RPG element. I mean, what kind of drew you into it because obviously I was the one that kind of told you about it, but what was it that's kind of really drawn you in and made you want to play more?
It's I think there's two key things that have made me get into it. Firstly, the ease of being able to get into the game.
Hmm.
So as soon as you showed me, because it was adding another game to my repertoire, and just thinking I haven't got time for another game. But Battle Companies is so simple. You start with a tiny group of men, and you can make it all out of just one starting box set, or even like my first Battle Company, I bought bought a half a starting box set of miniatures off eBay for a couple of quid, and I made the start of my battle company. So, firstly, it was the ease and the low cost of getting into it, and the second bit is gone from the top of my head. Oh no, it's just it's skirmish games. So the games aren't long, big games. They're not long, drawn out games. The rules are quick to pick up, and they're quick games as well to play. So they were the two main things. But as I got into it, other things made it even better and better. Definitely the role playing element and how you create characters and then you fall in love with your own characters. Not in that sense. And
I think with you and Lance, there was a little bit of that.
Lance, Geffen, and Lance's dog. So, but it was that. It was just literally being able to come back and use miniatures that you have. You create characters, you create profiles with them, and it gives a good story thematic way of playing. And it's just good fun, and quick as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that the important thing for people to recognize is that when you start off, you are just going to start off with very basic warriors. It's not you saying, right, I want a squad that's got Aragorn and Legolas. No, you know there are certain companies to choose from, and you get a certain um, makeup of that particular company, and we'll go through like each different company in future episodes. And you do that, and then you decide on having a leader and two sergeants, and those kind of act as your heroes, don't they?
They do indeed, and Yes, and again, reiterating what you said, you start with basic people, which gives you the chance to create amazing individuals as you go along. So it's good fun.
Yeah, I mean, what I really love the fact that what tends to happen is that you have no idea who these people are because it's like you start with a warrior of Rohan, for example, and then he'll do something in particular during a game, and you're like, oh my god, I feel like he's a bit like this, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I'm going to change his name to fit around what he's just done a little bit more. So yeah, you start with basic profiles, and then you have a leader and two sergeants, and basically the only difference between them is that, and like your heroes as they're known, and your basic warriors is that they'll have a point of might, they have a point of will, and have a point of fate, and they gain experience in a slightly different way to your regular warriors.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, once you, I mean, that's a kind of like a basic overview in it. So the first thing you really need to do is to choose your company. Now, how did you, I mean, which companies have you used so far?
So I purely because the way I play, I always go humans in anything I play, and my first company was Rohan.
Hmm.
Um, purely, yeah, I did Rohan. I've done Minas Tirith. I've got Uruk High. I've also got Corsairs of Cors
Umbar.
Umbar as well. So I've got those guys, and I've just started an Iron Hills Dwarves one.
And how, you know, I think that I remember you, I think mostly you've played with Rohan.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, what was it about them that kind of made you, you know, what drew you to them? Is it because they were easy to find? Was it because they were, you liked them from the films, or
Definitely a film thing because I just love the characters. And the thing is, though, there I felt I already knew a bit of their story, like so
sure?
yeah, it was an easy one to get into.
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of them, if you've seen the films, you love the films, or even if you love the books, and you know a bit about them, it's kind of you can be kind of drawn to those ones because just purely because you like what they wear, or you like the heroes, or you like that part of the Tolkien world, or whatever it might be. So,
Hmm.
there's interesting ways in, and you know, obviously for me. I've kind of gone, which ones have got cool special rules, which ones are a little bit different, which ones are like down and dirty, which ones are the glass cannons. But
Hmm.
I've played with, I don't know, 12 different companies or
Yeah.
something stupid like that. Um, and most of them most of them I've got a lot of love for. But yeah, it's in terms of choosing your own company, well, if you're going to get into it, then you can look through and go, oh, you start with this, and then you've got the options for these other things because there are advancements, there are reinforcements, there are upgrades that can happen. So, it's not a decision to be rushed, but not that you can't start multiple companies as well.
No, it's yeah. Start them all.
So, shall I talk about the RPG element of it?
Yeah,
Just
I think you yeah. That's again was well, I say two things got me into it, but the third thing as we got into it is a huge element to the game.
Yeah, so the RPG element is it's much simpler than a D&D type RPG. So essentially you have your heroes and you have your warriors. I'll talk about the heroes first of all. So every single game that you play, your hero will get an experience point. If you win the game, you get an extra experience point. If you cause a wound on someone, you'll get an experience point. If you successfully cast a spell, you'll get an experience point. So every 5 experience points that you get allows you to roll on an upgrade table. Now, with your heroes, what you have to do is decide on a particular path that you want to send them down. So there's a whole bunch of different paths, and you go, right, this is my leader, so I'm going to put him on the path of the general, and that will define the types of upgrade you can get. Or this guy's riding a horse, he's going to be on path of the knight. So at the end of every single time you get 5 experience points, at the end of that game, you roll a couple of dice and you see what option you get, and then that will give them an extra strength, or give them extra defense, or give them a special rule, and all of that will then increase their stats, also increases their points value, and as you go through your points value will increase as people upgrade. Warriors are a little bit different. I mean, have I explained that clearly enough? Do you think with the heroes?
So yes,
Okay. So
yeah.
So warriors are the same. So they get a point of they got an experience point for playing the game. They get an extra experience point if you win. And if they make a wound, as many wounds as they make in the game, they'll only get one experience point. That's the difference between heroes and warriors. Now, when they get 5 experience points, they have the choice that you roll a single dice, and if they have the option to upgrade, then they can upgrade to a slightly better version of themselves,
Mm.
or they can become a hero in the making, which gives them a point of fate, and then they will then upgrade as a hero would. Um, have I explained that well enough, do you think?
Yes, I think you have. Yes.
Good. I'm just kind of going, am I covering everything? So I want to cover as much as possible, but I also don't want to be rambling on
no,
about things.
no, you got that quite succinct. So yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And the brutal part of this is perhaps and as with all RPG games, is the injuries.
I love him and hate him.
Yeah, so yeah, if any of your models are taken as a casualty during the game, then you have to do an injury roll for them to see what happens to them, don't you?
Yeah. So I mean, there's been some points where I've literally had characters who've gone from a warrior, got upgraded to a hero, and they did really well in the battle, but were casualties. And then we roll on the injury chart, and then dead.
Yeah, roll yourself a nice chunky double one, and
they
yeah,
are they are no longer in your company.
yeah, that's it. Like if there is permadeaths. So it doesn't mean you can't. It doesn't mean you have to throw the model in the bin. It just means that that particular model, that particular character who you grew to love, is now no longer part of your company again.
I know
Which
it's only a 1 in 12 chance that that happens. It's 12, yeah, 1 in 12, isn't it? Double, yeah. But when some of my heroes or like my leader has been wounded, I'm just like, please no.
1 in 36 is your odds because it's a double, only comes up on a double one.
No, true. Okay.
Yeah. So and yeah, with warriors, I think it's a roll of a 2 or a 3 will cause a permadeath. So yeah, so again, there's a little bit of a difference with the way that heroes and warriors are injured. So um, with your warriors, they can either be killed outright, they can be injured, which means they have to miss the next game that you play, or they can just make a full recovery. It's about as simple as that. With your heroes, it's not quite as simple. They can die, obviously. They can get a leg wound, which means it takes an inch off their movement. They can get an arm wound, which means that they can't use a bow and arrow or a double-handed weapon because they need 2 arms for that. They can miss the next game. Um, they can get what's known as an old battle wound. Those are bloody annoying, aren't they?
They are so frustrating because that's when you roll at the start of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's where they've got like a gammy old knee, and at the start of the game, you roll a dice, and if you roll a 1, they just don't play. It's like, oh, that's like that's like a good chunk of my army just gone,
Yeah.
just not playing today. But you can also get things like something called Protected by the Valor, which is like your double 6 option, and that gives you an extra point of fate. So yeah, sometimes dying isn't the worst thing because you can get some decent things out of it, including extra influence points. And influence points is something we haven't actually spoken about yet. We've spoken about reinforcements and things, but yeah, do you want to talk about the influence points?
So obviously, influence points is you win influence points during the game. Is that I'm right in saying that you get the influence points from what you do in the game. So if you win the game, every mission will have a certain amount of influence points to be won, and the more you win more influence points if you win. You win a certain amount if you draw, and obviously you win none if you lose. And
So it's two. Let me just make sure that's absolutely correct. So it's two just for taking part,
okay, yes, sorry.
one extra for a draw, and two extra for a win. And depending on what scenario you're playing, there can be extra influence points for grabs.
That's it. But the influence points is where you get your reinforcements. Because you get to spend your influence points depending on your battle company, how many influence points you need to spend. You can roll on the reinforcement chart, and then you get more men.
Yeah, so just as a quick example, just to kind of share with you. So, if we were to, let me just pull up some details here. So, let's say, for example, you were using Minas Tirith. So, it will cost you 3 influence points to roll on a reinforcement chart. Uh, give me a number between 1 and 6.
uh, 4.
4. So, that would get you a new reinforcement, which would be a warrior of Minas Tirith with bow. So, that's it's as simple as that. You roll, you get a number, and you go right. I've got one of those now, and then you add that member into your company. And once that members into your company, it also increases the points value of your battle company. Does that explain? What? Yeah, and there are other things that you can do with influence points as well. So you can buy equipment, you can buy war gear, you can buy a mount for your heroes as well. So you can go right. My leader, I've got 3 influence points spare here. I'm going to spend 3 influence points and get him a horse, and then you got your leader on a horse. Then
That's it. Or you could buy Lance a dog.
yeah, you can buy a dog for your people. You can buy a warg for your you can buy a pet warg.
Yeah.
But this is what I think is so great about it is that there are so many options within it that you can go right. Well, I know what my weaknesses are with this particular company, so I'm going to buy this bit of equipment or this warg or this dog to try and make my company stronger because uh, you can use the influence points in these in like multiple different ways. You go, yeah, I have got 3 influence points. Do I want an extra man,
Mhm.
or do I want to buy a horse for my leader or a horse for my sergeant? Or do I want to buy poison weapons for my guys instead? There's so many different options with it, and that's what I kind of find fascinating about the whole thing.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. You can change your battle company from what would be just standard what you expect in the Lord of the Ring novels or anything like that, and completely change everything about them into your own type of battle company really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're led slightly by, if you do the reinforcements, you're led slightly by, what you get, but you
Mhm,
can kind of think when you start your company up, you can go, well, I kind of like the idea of it being a bit like this, and then trying to use your influence points to make that happen.
mhm.
Um, you know, and for instance, our good friend Dave, who's when I first played with him, he was using Osgiliath company, which is a really fun company to go with, and he had this idea of how he wanted them to be, and he just happened to absolutely luck out on all his rolls and go, right, I've got the perfect amount of cavalry, I've got the perfect amount of shooting, and I got the perfect, it's like, yeah, beautiful, it all comes together. And then I had a Harad company that just exactly the opposite. I was like, oh no, I don't want just another dude with a spear. It's not. It's like not helpful. It's not what I wanted to look like. But it's all good fun. And yeah, something we haven't actually mentioned. I've mentioned about the points value increasing, and what Battle Companies does quite nicely is it creates a more level playing field by changing how you changing things about the game about the amount of experience points, about the amounts of influence points based on the difference. So if you start doing really well with your company and I'm doing badly with my company, and say we've got a 50-point difference between our companies, then Battle Company says, okay, well, you can have, because you're behind, you can have extra influence points, or you can have extra re-rolls, or etc. etc. So it's quite well geared for that. Well, I say that the original Battle Companies doesn't do that so well. Doesn't do a lot of it so well. which kind of segues into an important thing that we need to say when we're talking about battle companies, which is what, Stephen?
We play by the community rules. We don't use the Games Workshop rules. Basically, I think on that end, what it is the Games Workshop rules. It came out. When did it come out? I actually don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure
No,
either.
no.
2014, something like that. 2000, no, 2017.
So, but what it is with the community rules, it's a rule book that's gone out, and in good old Games Workshop fashion, it's gone out. They've sold it, and then they haven't looked after that game system per se. However, the community who have taken on and played it have taken those rules, and it's been play tested and it's been played through several times, and they've balanced companies up so things work a lot more better, and also it's constantly being looked at and monitored and changed, which is brilliant. So like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guys, they've got to get a Discord, and I'm going to put a link in the comments because basically we're going to be going through the community rules. We're going to be talking about everything about it. But I want to be clear that me and Stephen had absolutely nothing to do with the creation of these
mhm.
community rules. We just absolutely love them. So, yeah, I'm going to put a link to their Discord, and I also want to say a huge thanks to the guys who have. Played through so many different scenarios, played like altered things to do with the companies and everything to make it a much more balanced game. And
Mm.
um, I don't want to just say, oh yeah, do this. I would actually like the opportunity to explain why the original Games Workshop Battle Company rules are so broken. I mean, it's because they really really are. So let's like so first of all, um, number one reason I've got a whole bunch of reasons why the community rules are better, but there's for start off, there's more companies, so there are more options to choose from. So there's 41 different companies you can choose from in the community rules. I don't know how many there are in the original one, but it is not 41.
I don't know either, but it is less. I mean, there's certain companies that yeah, but they've deep dived into the entire Lord of the Rings and pulled everyone into it, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've they've taken some of the companies and just completely removed them, and I'll talk about which ones and why in just a minute. They've blended a few companies together because they felt like it was better, but they've also added in some really awesome thematic choices for your companies as well. So rather than it just being, oh, these guys are evil dudes or whatever. It's like, no, let's do some Kirifungal ones. Let's like make that make sense a lot more. So I think Kirifungal in the originals, I'm sorry, but yeah, they've added something like the Lonely Mountain Alliance and things like that, the underpassing of the Grey Company. Um, but then they've got rid of the Rangers, which people weren't very like. Rangers are damn cool, man. I've just listened to the audiobooks. The Rangers are flippin' awesome. But the Ranger Company in oh my god, it's
There,
in the original rules.
well, you basically, if you chose Rangers, you just won. You know, you just turned up on the table and you won. And also, the growth of the company was just so it was too strong. Uh,
Oh yeah, I mean, so like the two companies that come to mind for me as being broken were the Rangers of the North and the Dead of Dunharrow. And the reason why is that if you chose Rangers of the North, your starting company was four Rangers of the North. Now they are heroes to begin with, so you start with four heroes straight off the bat. So yeah, everyone else only gets three heroes, but you get four heroes straight off the bat. And then you choose their hero path, and there's no limit to how many people can be on each path, which is something that the community rules changes. But so you could put all of them on the path of the ranger. You think, okay, well they are rangers. Why shouldn't they be on the path of the ranger? The problem with them being on the path of the ranger is if I tell you the different upgrades you can get for path of the ranger. So um, like I said, you roll 2 dice for your upgrade to see what you get. So let's say they roll the most likely option is that they roll a 7 because that's the most, you know, statistically most likely to roll. That would increase their shoot value up to a maximum of 3 plus. But they're already 3 plus, so they'd automatically, oh, we don't need any more upgrades on that. So they automatically get to move on to something else. So they roll onto something else. And let's say they rolled an 11. That would give them heroic accuracy. Apart from they already have heroic accuracy, so they get to roll again. So two of the options on there they can't get because they've already got them. So that means that you're a lot more likely to get the other ones. So looking at the other ones, well, essentially, you could upgrade, say, 5 or 6 times, and you'd be in a situation where you'd be hitting on a 3, you'd be able to move full and shoot twice without penalty with a 3 point of might every shoot turn, and that could be for every single model you had on the board.
It just means it was too overpowered. And to be honest, when we first looked at doing it, even purely because I like the miniatures and stuff, I wanted to go Rangers.
Absolutely.
But then as you go into it, it's not. If you like to play a good fun game, they're not a fun company to have because you'll just win, 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 and no one will want to play you at the end of the day, like And it's not.
Yeah, no,
There's
it's just not fun to play against, is
no,
it?
no, no. It's not fun, and that's unfortunately it was the original rules from Games Workshop. That was it, and
So that they limited it by having a limit. Like, we haven't spoken about limits, but in general, the limit of most companies is 15 models, and they limited it to 10 models. But the worst upgrade option was a Dunedain, which is still a 25-point model. That was your worst case scenario. And the reinforcement costs were the same across the board in the original rules. So you could roll for your reinforcement, get the worst option, which would be a Dunedain for 25 points, whereas someone who's got a Moria company would be spending exactly the same influence points to get a flipping 5-point Goblin. It's like, pardon?
no,
It's just ludicrous. So that's the Rangers being broken, and the other one which is broken is they have the Dead of Dunharrow, which is just Warriors of the Dead. So you start with 4 Warriors of the Dead. Now, if you don't know, the Warriors of the Dead, uh, there's 3 things about them which make them kind of very different to other models, is that they start at defense 7.
they're just insanely difficult to.
And then they can have a shield, which makes them defense 8. You then put them on whatever path if you want, and most hero paths will have a defense upgrade option. Only be able to upgrade once, but even if they upgrade once, they're then defense 9. I mean,
I mean, what's the half troll defense?
6. I mean, so like defense 9 is ludicrous. Like like defense 9 pretty much you can have that across the board. And the other thing is, every single one of your models would cause terror, which means that every single time someone tries to charge any of your models, you've got to do a courage test.
It's again. Fortunately, it's the only other one that was broken. I mean, the rest of them we got right, but yeah, again, it would not have been. I mean, it would be interesting pitting Ranger against the Dead of Dunharrow, I suppose, but
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, overpowered versus overpowered. Oh, and the other thing is that they've got the Blades of the Dead special rule, which means that rather than wounding against rolling to wound against your defense, they do it against your courage. So their strength 3. Most evil companies, if you're doing good versus evil, most evil are courage 2 or courage 3. So you're wounding on a 4. Then if you upgrade your strength and they're courage 2 across the board, you're wounding on 3s. And then maybe you're getting multiple attacks. And then also, not only that, you're then allowed to put them on a horse.
what dead?
Yeah, Riders of the Dead.
Oh my god!
So you get, and the other thing, just to kind of just finish this all off, is that the original company, battle company thing hadn't. I mean, and it's still optional in the community rules, but it mentions about having a cavalry limit. But in theory, you could have 15 Riders of the Dead as your 15 things, and like just charging around,
That
causing terror. And it gets worse.
it gets worse.
It gets worse because um, there's each different company has something called the company specific upgrade,
Yes.
hero
Yeah, yeah.
upgrade. So this is a hero upgrade which is only available to that particular company. And normally it's something like increase your fight value by 1 if you charge, or something like that. It's normally something really good, but the original Dead of Dun Harrow one, let me just find it. Bear with me 1 second. But if I remember rightly, it is. So let me tell you this. It's called the Touch of the Dead. If the hero makes 1 or more strikes against an enemy model and that model is not slain, the model must take a courage test. Yes, another one. If the courage test is failed, then in the following turn, that model is treated as being under the effects of the transfix magical power. So even if you don't wound someone, they could be in a situation where they cannot move that model for the next turn.
So,
So even if you win the even if you ah
but it's like playing against you as Far Harad, and when you transfix, I mean, you get 1 miniature, and you have to roll a load of dice to make that happen. That was frustrating to play against. To play against something like this, just
yeah. So I'm look, I'm so grateful that the community rules exist, because if you start playing against someone who's just goes, yeah, I'm going to be Rangers and I'm going to have 10 hero models that all do all of the shit I said earlier. It's like, yeah, I'll just win. You can take the 4 influence points. I'll have the 2, and I'll go and play someone else because I don't want to play against that,
no,
because that is not fun.
no, it's not fun. And the whole point of this is fun, and you want to do the RPG element, and you want to progress with the game, and you want to have everything that comes with it. And I wouldn't get past 2, 3 games with someone if they had that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not something which would end up being fun. So that is why, it's I feel like if you are going to get into battle companies, using the community rules is the only it's the only option. I mean, there's literally no downside to it. And also, like you said earlier, it is being evolved. And also, I found a new rule in there which I hadn't seen before. I haven't told you about this yet. So I mentioned earlier, just so everyone's reading from the same hymn sheet. I mentioned earlier about warriors being able to upgrade. Um, and some of them have advancements. So, for example, a warrior of let me just look at the thing so I can give a solid example here. Um, so if you have, bear with me. So let's say you were using the Defenders of Helm's Deep company, which is a very thematic one. If you had a warrior of Rohan, and they were to like a standard warrior of Rohan, and they upgraded, they would become a Helminga with equivalent war gear. Um, Now, some companies do not have these advancement options, and it's a very frustrating thing sometimes, because you go, oh, so it's basically become a hero or nothing changes. There is something in the rules which I only noticed yesterday, that if there is no advancement option and they roll to upgrade, then they get +1 to their courage, which just makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. Damn it. I could have so done with that against your half troll.
It would, I so could have done with that being courage 2 with my Farharad.
Yeah.
So I mean, presumably that can only happen once, but it's just like little things like that where that they've obviously the community rules that they've obviously looked at and gone, yeah, this is really annoying. There's it's not it's not inverted commas fair for there to not be an upgrade option. So we need to make something, and that's perfect. Increase in courage. Yeah, they've got some experience, they feel better, they feel braver. Boom, they get an extra point of
which
courage.
helps. I mean, again, the thing is, those little things they help. They're not massive game changers, but they could be. Though sometimes, like
Well, we had a game. We did. We had this game where it all came down to whether one of my warriors could pass a courage test or not. Because I'd been broken, but I was in a situation where I still it was a claim the treasure game, and you had three, and I had three, and my guy carrying the three that I had wasn't a hero. I left him half an inch too close to you, and you were able like or something like that. But essentially, the whole game rested on a courage test, which I failed by 1 point.
I know.
So
Again,
these things are
they
important.
are important, but they do, yeah, and it's yeah, but it's good. But that's again coming back to it. The community have play tested the rules. They go through. There's so many other bits in there that I don't think it will take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to cover everything that they've done in the rules. Needless to say, is to get hold of those rules now. You're gonna. I assume we're putting a link in that for the where the rules are.
There will be. I'll put a link in there to their Discord as well as where you can get the community rules.
Yeah, no, they are just it's again it doesn't balance everything because at the end of the day there are stronger companies in one way or another, but in the way that you play and the way that you upgrade and your reinforcements and everything goes on from there, it's a lot more balanced and fair. So and yeah,
Yeah.
you can't no one gets overpowered too quickly in that.
I mean, yeah. To be honest, I don't think any of the companies in there at the moment are massively weak or massively overpowered. I mean, I think that I feel like Moria should get a higher model allowance. It's got 20. I feel like it should have even higher, but then they can get cave trolls. But I'm about to play with Moria, so we'll find out if that's an issue or whether it's not. I mean, I think the final thing that I want to say about battle companies, I mean, unless there's something else that you feel like we haven't covered that we feel like we should have covered, is the different ways in which you can play it. So if you've followed me on YouTube or Stephen on TikTok, you may have seen that we've been doing an ongoing campaign, and that is one way of playing it. So I set up a company, he set up a company, and we've just gone uh, week after week after week. We've played kind of a couple of games against each other, and our company has evolved, and we played different scenarios, and yeah, it was really fun. But you can just do it as pickup games as well, can't you?
That's it, yeah, yeah. So the thing is, like, you can have battle companies sat on the shelf for months. Like, you can play them, you do the upgrades and stuff. So obviously, one thing we didn't touch on was the battle companies manager.
Force, talk about that.
So what it is again another community created thing that helps, which is massive. It's online. It's called Battle Companies Manager, and you input your battle company in there, and as you're playing, it records everything. So it's a tool you use when you play. It records all your wounds that you do, everything like this. So you don't have to have a pen and paper. But what it is it's all on there. You complete a game, you finish your end of game roles, you do all of that, you type it all, you put it all into the Battle Companies Manager, you close it, and then you can forget about it for 6 months, and then you go, actually, nah, I fancy getting those guys out again. Open up Battle Companies Manager, everything that you need, they're there, and that's coming back to what Chris is saying. It's a game that you can just pick up and go. You can just literally open up and go, yeah, I fancy playing with these guys. Have you got a company with points similar to this one? Yep, off we go and we play. And again, they gain experience, they gain influence, and you can play a couple of games and then put them back on the shelf for 6 months if you want to. So
Yeah, it's great, man. Like I said earlier, I think I've got 11 or 12 companies now. Some of them have kind of reached about their limit. They've got to kind of 500 odd points, and some of them are just like stupidly powerful. And it's like, yeah, that they're probably about time that one was retired. But then I've got a whole bunch of companies that are like 200, 250, 300, 350. So, you can have a friend turn up and just go, oh, what companies have brought with you? Oh, I've got these guys that are 300. Have you got anything 300? I've got something that's 275. Cool. Well, use them and then have um, an extra bonus influence. or whatever. So it can be played in a number of different ways. And one thing that you weren't involved in because you live so far away, well, not that far away, but is you can actually do a larger map-based campaign with multiple companies. So we had one which is one or two games away from being finished. And there's a map, and it's all divided up into hexagons, and then each turn you have, or each week you play, you get to move one square to take over a territory, and then some territories give you a special bonus, and it's whoever controls the most territory at the end of the campaign wins the whole thing. So you can play it in a third way as well if you can get enough of you together. And that's kind of why I'm kind of doing this because I honestly think it's such a wonderful way to play the awesome game of MESBG, and I think more people would need to give it attention because it's bloody awesome.
No, it's awesome. It's cheap to get into. It's easy to get into. It's a pick up and play. The games when you first start, you know, even as a new person starting the game, I wouldn't say it took us more than I wouldn't even say an hour or an hour and a half, probably, once you're just balancing and figuring it all out. Because bear in mind, you've only got 5 miniatures each to move at a time, or 7 miniatures. It's not much, and as the miniatures are very basic at the start with the stats and stuff, you pick it up very quickly, and yeah, off you go, and obviously as you grow and you grow with yeah, I think that's one thing, you grow with the game. So as the rules improve, you're picking up the rules as you go along, the upgrades, all the intricacies and all the extra bits. You only have to pick up one or two things at a time. And once you 4 or 5 games in, it becomes second nature, and it's so quick and easy. And plus, you have your characters that you love, like Geffen and Lance, and
So the next one that we're doing is we're going to be doing an Iron Hills versus Moria, isn't
that's
it?
it. Yeah. So
Um, so just to talk about the differences between the companies there. So Stephen will be starting with five
I think
Iron Hills dwarves.
that's it. Yeah, I'm just bringing them up now. It's
I think, whereas I will be starting with 11 Moria goblins. And with so we're gonna have three heroes each. We'll have a leader. We'll have two sergeants each. Um, and then yeah, so 11 versus 5. So it's gonna be an interesting one. But yeah, those games, once we get on with it, which will be in a few weeks' time, um, those were going to be streamed live on TikTok and streamed live on my YouTube channel as well. So you can go and follow that so that's at Good Enough Scenery on both TikTok and YouTube, and you can follow Stephen, which is When I Can Hobby, with full stops in between.
it
Correct?
is, yeah. So, but Google it, you'll find. Not Google, TikTok it on the search bar, you'll find me in there. So,
Yeah. Do you like in terms of what Battle Companies is all about? Do you feel like there's anything we've missed? I mean, I made some notes beforehand, but do you think there's anything I haven't covered, or you haven't covered, or anything you want to say that you want to say?
no, I think no. I think I think, to be honest, once we start getting into it and start going through the battle companies, more and more stuff will come out with it. Especially when we start touching on the spells and then the abilities and the different ways of growing your company and stuff. But I think as a starter, it is literally a nice, easy game to get into. Community rulebook all the way because it's been developed and looked after, and that it's a good, fun, easy game to get into. So, size of the board, 4 foot by 4 foot. So it's
Yeah.
not a huge board, and limit. You don't need tons of scenery either, But obviously, if you look at good enough scenery and what he makes, you're going to want to make some of it.
Yeah, if you're looking for scenery, whether you want to learn how to make it or maybe you want to buy some, then you can head to goodenoughscenery.com. At the time of recording, I'm not making stuff at the moment because I'm currently recovering from surgery. There's a email list you can sign up for either way. Right. Well, I think that's everything we wanted to say, isn't it?
That is, I think so, definitely. Until the next one.
Okay, well, thanks very much, everyone, for listening to the Good Enough Battle Companies podcast. My name's Chris Piercy from Good Enough Scenery, and thanks for joining me, Stephen, from When I Can Hobby.